Hi, I'm the Cinema King, and these are 50 random movies I'm glad I gave a chance. Number 50 is Infinity Pool. I was drawn to this film by the premise. It was about people going on vacation and committing a series of crimes, and then instead of them facing the consequences for their actions, they would actually have clones created, and their clones would end up facing the charges instead of them. I like seeing performances where there doesn't seem to be any insecurity in terms of the actors just really go for it. They're not worried about embarrassing themselves. They're not worried about how they are going to be perceived. They're just focused on embodying the character and the performances, and that's something you definitely get in this film too. Number 49 is Strange Darling. As you can see, it has some very beautiful cinematography in just terms of how they utilize lighting. I would say that was probably one of the things that drew me to check out this film because I'm not familiar with the filmmaker or the actors in it. So sometimes it's the cinematography that draws me in and makes me give a movie a chance. This is a non-linear story, so I thought it was very creative how they would add to the suspense by telling the story out of order and really subverting your expectations. Number 48 is The Piano Teacher. I gave this film a chance because it is directed by Michael Haneke, who also directed Funny Games. Funny Games was another film that just really subverted my expectations and was pretty dark and twisted, and that filmmaker utilizes a lot of those same techniques in this film in terms of just being very disturbing, very intense. Another movie I'm glad I gave it a chance. Number 47 is Mandy. There's two main reasons that I gave this film a chance. Number one being I'm a fan of Nicolas Cage. He's definitely going to fully commit to any performance that he does, and he has a wide variety of some crazy performances. And the second reason is the cinematography. This film has some of the most beautiful uses of red light that I've ever seen in a film. The way they utilize red light throughout the entire film is absolutely stunning. There's a sequence in the film where one of the characters is drugged on something similar to acid. I really appreciated the camera techniques that were used to make you feel like you are also on acid. It was a very subjective perspective and immersed you into the drug tripping experience. This felt like a film that had a very distinct vision from a unique filmmaker that was just expressing their own personal vision. Number 46 is Pity. One of my favorite filmmakers is Yorgos Lanthimos, and I came across this film because one of Yorgos Lanthimos' co-writers also wrote this film. It's about a man, he's a husband and a father, and he is addicted to being depressed. When he's depressed, he is able to garner sympathy from the people around him because they think his wife is dying. Once she gets out of the coma or whatever sickness that she has, and she's no longer perceived as dying, then he no longer gets the pity that he garnered from being depressed. We get to see his journey for how he deals with that, and he does not deal with it well at all. He will literally go to any lengths by any means to garner that depression, even if it means causing harm to his own family. Number 45 is The Death of Stalin. I gave this film a chance because it's starring Steve Buscemi, and I'm willing to check out a lot of his films. He's a great actor, a lot of great performances. I went in with low expectations because I'm not usually into political type films, but this actually ended up being pretty engaging. This film is basically a series of leaders that are stabbing each other in the back to take over. Once somebody takes over and gets to a position of leadership, they're immediately stabbed in the back, and there's another queue, and everybody's just basically backstabbing each other and trying to claw to the top. Number 44 is The Neon Demon. I was drawn to this film because, in addition to being a filmmaker, I'm also a photographer, and this is a film about a model rising in the fashion industry. This film incorporates some of the art of being a model and being in the fashion industry, but it also incorporates some elements of horror and some cult, cannibalism, witchy elements. But yeah, that combination worked for me, and I'm glad I gave this one a chance. Number 43 is Boiling Point. You can't tell from looking at the trailer because they're obviously going to edit and chop around, but this entire film is shot in one take. So that was pretty intriguing to really see how immersive that experience could be, where you feel like you're really in a restaurant and seeing all the drama that goes with being a chef and dealing with customers and just the stress and intensity of all of the moving dynamics that are happening at the same time. Watching this film is kind of like being a fly on the wall and really getting to see behind the scenes of a restaurant and seeing how the sausage is made. Number 42 is Owning Mahoney. I was drawn to this film because it stars Philip Seymour Hoffman. I was also intrigued by the premise. He plays a very high-level accountant at a bank who is also addicted to gambling, which is a very deadly combination. It was fascinating to see the subtlety in Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance as he's dealing with debt, and stress. And every time he wins, he bets bigger, and that puts him in even more danger of losing even more. And he's really going through it in this film. You really watch somebody self-sabotage and just really rip their own life apart just to see the level of desperation that he goes through just for that little hit, that little bit of excitement. Number 41 is Naked. This film is pretty disturbing. It stars David Thewlis. First time I remember seeing him in a movie was Dragonheart as a kid, and then he's also in Harry Potter. This is probably his best role. This film kind of felt like the alternate universe version of the Joker. He's probably one of the most despicable characters I've ever seen in a film, but somehow still very engaging and charismatic. It's a very interesting combination. Number 40 is A Pigeon Sat on a Branch, Reflecting on Existence. This was the first film I saw by Roy Anderson. I think I saw it on Netflix when it first came out. It's basically a series of vignettes where you get like little snippets into different people's lives all within the same universe. And a lot of them have intersectionality of certain themes, like an examination of what it means to be a human. All of the shots are stationary, locked down on a tripod. The camera never moves, but it's still just engaging. Like you get to really appreciate the naturalism of everyone's performances. And it's just interesting how he can encapsulate something that feels so real and natural within a world full of artifice. Everything in the environment is so clearly manufactured, and everything in the presentation is so clearly manufactured, but some of the elements emotionally just feel raw and real. Yeah, I'm really glad I gave this one a chance. Number 39 is Benedetta. This is directed by Paul Verhoeven. My favorite film that he's made is Starship Troopers. He also did Showgirls and RoboCop. This film is about a nun that's behind the scenes is involved in a lesbian affair with another nun. She's also claiming to have visions that basically makes her like a messiah. Her claims end up being very polarizing to the church, where some believe her and may see her as like a prophet or the chosen one, while others believe that it's all artifice and that she's faking the entire thing. So it's just interesting to see the clashes of all the ideologies. Number 38 is Mommy. I gave this film a chance because I saw a video essay on YouTube where they broke down how this film utilizes aspect ratio as a storytelling device. A part of the impact that this more narrow framing can have is that you feel more claustrophobic. This is about a mom that's dealing with a son that she has no control over, and she's constantly feeling pressure and tension from dealing with the consequences of his actions. She feels like she is suffocating, so that's why the frame is so narrow. We get to feel the way she feels throughout the course of the journey of the film. Number 37 is Raw. This film is about a young girl that's about to start her freshman year in college who has been a vegetarian her entire life. Once she joins a sorority, she ends up eating raw meat for the first time, and then she discovers that she has more of a taste for raw meat than she ever expected or ever known. And she basically discovers that she is a cannibal. We get to see her awakening, her coming of age experience. This is a French film, and it's definitely very visceral, very raw. It was a very interesting experience. Number 36 is Harakiri. It's about a samurai on the path to get revenge from one of his pupils. It was very interesting to see how they broke down the facades of the traditions and the culture of the samurai, and we got to see the difference between those who claim to really live by the rules and live by the traditions versus the ones that actually do. This is a film that I think has heavily influenced Kill Bill and The Blue Eye Samurai and many others. The way that they incorporate really stretching the rubber band in terms of suspense and drama, and then the way it all coalesces into an exciting climax. It was also cool to see the standoffs of a samurai. We're used to seeing like these dueling matches between two cowboys, or gunslingers, but it's interesting seeing the sword version of that. Number 35 is The Girl with the Needle. This is another movie that I was just drawn in by the cinematography. I really didn't know anything about what it was about. I didn't know the actors. I didn't know the filmmaker. I barely knew anything about the plot. I just rolled the dice on it and gave it a chance. I was very impressed with the cinematography and the blocking, the way they would utilize high contrast with light and shadows. This film was just very, very well made and very underrated. There's not enough people talking about this film. This was by far my favorite movie of 2024. It's probably might be one of the darkest movies of the year, not just in terms of cinematography and the shadows, but also just in terms of the themes it covers. I don't really want to tell you anything about this film though, because part of the experience was going into it not knowing what was going to happen or what it was about. But it was very fascinating to me. I was very invested right from the opening scene. Number 34 is Election. I gave this film a chance because it is made by Alexander Payne, who also did Sideways, which I'm a big fan of with Paul Giamatti. It's about a girl that's running for class president in her high school, and one of the teachers does everything in his power to undermine her. He refuses to give her the satisfaction of winning, so he picks his own pupil that he thinks could be a good candidate, and they end up competing to see who could become the class president. This is usually not the kind of film that I would watch, just in terms of I don't care about most high school dramas or anything of such nature. This one really surprised me. Everybody's performances were very strong. This might be my favorite Reese Witherspoon performance also. Like she did very well. Matthew Broderick killed it in his role. Just seeing the rivalry that ended up developing between the two, where it starts off pretty innocent, where she's just overbearing teacher's pet kind of, into becoming his true enemy number one, to the point where it causes ripples that destroy lives. Number 33 is Shiva Baby. The protagonist is at an event where she's crossing paths with her sugar daddy, who she's trying to keep under wraps, her parents, old friends, and all of these basically different dynamics and dramas are all coalescing. Kind of reminds me of Uncut Gems in the way that it just really builds the tension and builds the trauma over time. You really get to feel her anxiety as she goes through the events of the day. Number 32 is Love Lies Bleeding. I was drawn to this one first because of the cinematography. Some of the shots in here just really just grabbed my eye. Also, it being an A24 film, I'm a fan of a lot of what they've made, like Hereditary, The Lobster, and then also just seeing a female bodybuilder as one of the lead characters. I'm also a fan of this director, Rose Glass. She directed another movie that we'll see later on this list that I really enjoyed. So I came into this film with some high expectations, and I really ended up enjoying it. Number 31 is They Cloned Tyrone. This film has a very strong trio with John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, and Tiana Paris, and the three of them end up uncovering a deep government conspiracy that's happening right below their hood. I appreciate how they incorporated elements of comedy within the drama. It was executed very well. Tune in next week to see the rest of the random movies. I'm glad that I gave a chance. Let me know if any movies on this list ended up surprising you, or are any of these one of your favorite movies, or were you greatly disappointed by any of these films? Like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.